Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome back to the Carla and Crappy Show. It is week 7 of the college football season. I am your Uncle Crappy. That is my friend Carla. Carla, how you doing?
I am very distracted. This is the first time in the history of the Carla and Crappy Show that I have been distracted by midweek football while we are trying to record our episode for the week.
I'm gonna be distracted too because I'm streaming. Middle is playing. It's Tuesday night. They're in the third quarter. Middle's up 24-9. And yes. I am streaming the game on my phone, so I'm going to be distracted as well. So we will be partners in distraction. Did you guys finally get some football-ish weather?
We did over the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really nice. It dropped down, and it's actually been really brisk walking across campus in the mornings.
Yes.
I actually wore a jacket to campus this morning, and I wished I had a jacket yesterday because it stayed cloudy and cool. Mm-hmm. And even a little drizzle in the air, and it stayed in like the 50s until like after lunchtime, and that was not supposed to happen. And I definitely wished I would have worn something a little warmer to walk across campus. But yeah, we're kind of back up into like we're inching back up again. We're gonna almost touch 80 tomorrow, but then we're supposed to drop again for the weekend. So it's probably a glorious football night right now at Floyd Stadium, and I'm really kind of annoyed that I'm not there, but life, I've got other things going on this week.
Right.
So this was the game that I sacrificed to not be there, but yeah, the students were pretty amped about it when I was talking to them today in class, and so come on, Middle, we need this one. As I mentioned in our text thread before we started recording, this is almost a must win for Middle. Because next week they go to Liberty, which is gonna be a really tough ask, because that Liberty team is really good, although they are losing at the moment. Last I checked, it's tied up. They're tied at the half now with Jacksonville State. But to be bowl eligible, like the last 4 games of the year, Middle can win. It's essentially against the bottom half of the CUSA, so I feel pretty good about that. But if you're going to get the 6 wins, after losing last week, you've only got 1. You have to win tonight, so that you don't have to win next week at Liberty to be able to be bowl eligible. So, whoo boy, I'm feeling good now that we're up 24-9. But we'll see. Last week, I was at the game last week during that monumental collapse.
Yes.
And that was just stunning
it was a rough one.
To watch that happen in real time. I was on the field for a good chunk of that game. One of the perks of being a faculty member. And it was just, it looked real, like as good as the second quarter looked, the third quarter was just as bad. Like it was just like a completely different team came out of the tunnel at the half, and really shocking. So yeah, it's this must win. Come on, Middle, let's do this.
I've been impressed with Middle's offense tonight. They've been going tempo for pretty much the whole time they have the ball, and it's been really effective. Little kind of a West Coast sort of thing, using swing passes as running plays. It's been fun to watch. Tech is driving, but we'll try not to get that. Let us get that too, just to get us too distracted. Let's see. Last week, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of annoying stuff for Ohio State fans. Before we talk about what's going to happen this weekend, let's look back to last Saturday or last week, more broadly. What did you see that stood out to you?
So I decided to take a slightly different tack to this week. It's midterms at MTSU. And at the end of the show every week, we tell people to come back to see just how wrong we were.
Yes.
So I decided to grade myself.
Okay.
On things that I was right and wrong about last week.
Okay.
So first thing, let's do the positives first. As I tell my students, you flatter first, and then you go after the criticism, right?
Right. We should say that we actually noted during the show last week that you and I picked, I think 5 games differently of the 7 that we picked. So there's a basis for comparison here that we don't always have.
Yeah, which was kind of fun and kind of iterative of like what the way the whole season has gone this year, that we have this parity. So here are the things I'm very proud that I got right. I was right about Jaden Daniels. He put that LSU team on his back to win that game at Mizzou. He threw for 259 and 3 touchdowns, and then ran for $139 and another score. That was the Jaden Daniels show.
It was.
He willed that team to a win. The defense also stepped up late, which was slightly surprising a week after giving up 700 yards of offense to Ole Miss.
They were well rested,
I guess. Yeah. I don't know. But the couple really impressive defensive plays there, including the pick six that kind of sealed the whole thing at the very end of the game. Related to that, I'm going to take a little tangent here.
Please.
Was the noon Eastern window last weekend the best window of games that we've seen so far this season?
That could be. A bunch of the games that we talked about were right there.
I had triple box going. It was quad box, but I don't even remember what the fourth game was. I was just kind of like, here are the 3 games that I want. Whatever fourth game you want to throw in there, that's fine. But like, I'm sure you're going to talk about this. Like Maryland, Ohio State was like really close until the fourth quarter.
Right.
LSU needed their late game heroics at Mizzou, and Red River was just an absolute barn burner.
Insane game.
I mean, that game lived up to every iota of expectations. That noon window last week was just absolutely incredible. Okay, so back to my right and wrong. I was right about UCLA. Starting the dominoes in the Pac-12 by knocking off a ranked Wazoo squad in the Rose Bowl. We were both right about Georgia. But I wasn't expecting that big of a win. Georgia finally remembered how to play football again.
At least remembered how to play football in the first half, rather than waiting until after halftime.
Right. I mean, they looked the most like a number 1 team that they have all season.
Yes.
Against a really good Kentucky team. Okay, so that's all the good. Here's all the bad. I was wrong about Bama. I thought Texas A&M had the capacity of taking the Tide out of the divisional hunt, and instead Bama now controls its own destiny in the West. Stop me if you've heard that before, right? I
wanted you to be right. I wanted you to be right about that one, but
I wanted to be right about that one too. I wanted us to be able to say the West was wide open, and now Bama is like in the driver's seat. Here we are, same, it's different year, same tune. I was wrong about Texas. And here's what I mean about that. Like, that was a hell of a football game. And I thought this was the year that Texas was going to be fully back, right? And it still may be. But now the Horns have to play this like runner-up role until potentially meeting the Sooners again in the Big 12 title game.
Yeah.
Unless Oklahoma does something silly, which, hey, could still happen because Oklahoma's defense doesn't rank in the top 50, and that still may come back to bite them at some point this season. Ask USC about that and how that lack of defense almost bit them in a triple overtime game at home against Arizona. At home against Arizona, triple overtime. And then finally, I was really wrong about North Carolina. They're real good. They blasted Syracuse at home 40-7. And I had them on upset alert. But the Heels are legit. We'll talk more about them a little bit later. So,
yes, we will.
So I did okay. I think I passed, but it definitely was not an A. I missed a lot of stuff last week, but I think that's part of the fun of the season.
Well, and it's the tagline of the show. So there's no shame in being incorrect. As you said, you picked LSU. You picked Louisville correctly. I thought I should expect the annual Notre Dame swoon, although it's hard to say that. It was Louisville's a ranked team and playing at home, but that wasn't even an especially close game.
No, it wasn't. That surprised me that how big that margin was. I thought Louisville was going to give them a game. I think I officially picked Notre Dame.
You did.
Maybe I didn't.
I thought you picked Louisville. I thought so. I thought that was one of the games that we picked differently, but I could be about that.
But either way, like, I did not expect that kind of performance out of Louisville. They played like a team shot out of a cannon in that kind of environment, playing in front of a packed house at home. What an environment on a Saturday night. And I mean, like we talked, Notre Dame, like that's their third brutal game in a row, and they've got a fourth coming up this week we're going to talk about. So
Yes.
That's just a heck of a stretch for the Irish.
It is.
So yeah, it was kind of a letdown game, really.
I happened to wake up. I had a hard time sleeping on Saturday night, and I happened to wake up in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh, okay, look at my phone. Oh, hey, Arizona's about to beat Southern Cal. So I called upstream on my phone and watched the end of that game, and really that was it would have been awesome for Arizona to put that away without going into overtime. But man, that was a fun thing to watch. The other game that turned out the way it should not have, because of something dumb, not a lack of defense, but a coaching mistake that could get you fired. I don't know what Mario Cristobal's doing, what he was thinking. He has said it's all on me. If the Hurricanes take a knee against Georgia Tech, which just lost the previous
over
to a MAC team, the game is over. Game is over.
Yeah.
Instead, they run the ball, they fumble it, and Tech scores 2 plays later to win the game. I don't know why that happened. Don't understand it. That's coaching 101. But
yeah.
that was one that jumped out at me as well. That's it's still a head scratcher, and we'll see if Miami can come back from that this weekend, because it's a good team. They've played well this season, so we'll see how that's going to go. Another game that I watched on Friday night. The Cornell Big Red Bears in their national television appearance this year. They ran into a buzzsaw, a kid named Charles DePrima. He was Harvard's quarterback. He threw for 3 touchdowns and ran for 3 more. Cornell's offense was respectable, but Harvard beat Cornell 41-23. Starting Cornell running back Drew Powell, my nephew, had 5 carries for 20 yards, had another solid day blocking. And I am so stoked for this weekend on Saturday with his parents, his grandparents, and his aunt and uncle. That's me in the stands at Shellcop Field at Ithaca, and probably in a cold rain. Drew and the Big Red Bears should rebound against Patriot League bottom feeder Bucknell. We will have a full report next week, but this will be the one time Aaron and Chris, his parents, have come up from Florida to watch him play once a season, and I think a couple games maybe last year. But this is the first time I've been able to see him play. My parents haven't seen him play since he was in high school, so this is going to be a fun weekend in Ithaca. Hopefully the weather isn't going to be too awful, but it's going to be cool. If I want chilly weather, I'm going to get it in upstate New York. I don't know if AJ has any thoughts about the Big Red Bears, but he certainly has thoughts about the Group of 5 and the Pac-12 After Dark. One of which game we're going to be talking about, a Pac-12 sort of After Dark if you live on the East Coast game. But we'll let AJ take you through that. AJ, go.
Hey everybody, it is this week 7. We are already to week 7 of the Carla and Crappy Show Group of 5 After Dark report. This feels like a lot, to be honest. I don't feel like we're really in week 7. We are. That seems weird to say out loud, but here we are. We have to start with what I think is just a delightful combination of games on Friday the 13th. We start at 7 p.m. on ESPN. We have Tulane at Memphis. Y'all, this is going to be a great game. Tulane is the class of the AAC. Their only loss is to Ole Miss. Memphis is 4-1. Their only loss is to Missouri in the Mizzou to the Lou series. What a name. Somebody should get an award and also slapped for making that name. But These teams are good. They are actual capital G good teams. I think this is either an early preview of the AAC championship game, or it's going to decide some tiebreakers somewhere along the way. You should absolutely check this game out. At 8 p.m. on CBSSN, the Network of Champions, we have Fresno coming off of a, honestly, body blow from Wyoming in the first half. They almost came back and won it at the end. They lost their starting quarterback, Mikey Keene, to an injury during that game. They have to go to Logan to play Utah State. Is Utah State good? That's debatable. Their success rate is not great, but they can run the ball pretty well, and Fresno has a pretty good run defense. Utah State's defense is really not good, and this is largely what has lost them a number of games so far. You may remember Utah State from week 1 when they helped hold the vaunted Brian Ferentz offense to under 25 points to start the year. We all had a great giggle about that. But since then, they lost to Air Force by multiple touchdowns. They almost beat JMU, but JMU came out on top there. They won by 1 over UConn and then beat Colorado State by 20, and then looked at Colorado and said, it's hard. So that's a very fun scenario of the Utah State year so far. Utah State, though, is getting into the meat of their schedule. They have Fresno now. They have San Jose State after this. I think this is a chance for them to catch potentially a down Fresno. I don't want to say that necessarily directly. I think that Fresno is going to be just fine. I fully expect Fresno to win this game, but I think Utah State makes this a lot closer than a lot of people would think. Also on Friday night at 10 p.m., God's after dark time, a proper after dark kick. We have Stanford at Colorado. If you want to see the fireworks factory go off, Stanford is down bad. The Troy Taylor experience is going to be a minute. Let's just say that. So let's just go ahead and pencil in Colorado for a multi-touchdown win. They did beat Arizona State after coming off of 2 just absolutely brutal losses, 1 to Oregon State and 1 to USC. I think this is where Colorado gets back on the Buffalo and really puts it on somebody. We go to noon on Saturday. You can go ahead and skip the Big Ten. No one cares about that. Why would you care about that? Because what you should care about is on ESPN2. We have Georgia Southern at JMU. James Madison is back on it. NCAA is a bunch of cowards for not letting them go to the championship game of the Sun Belt and not letting them play in a bowl game because they're making everybody look bad. That's what it is. That's what this comes down to. Because JMU is going to make somebody look bad in a bowl game too. So listen, I get it. They're trying to protect their precious babies from getting beat up by the team that's coming up from the quote-unquote lower division. Georgia Southern's good. They are playing pretty great offensive football. They don't really have a defense to speak of. So, listen, this is going to be a fun game, and it's on ESPN2, and you should absolutely watch this. What you shouldn't watch is Michigan State at Rutgers on the Big Ten Network. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let's go to 3:30. And I know that this is likely going to be one of the big number games because there's numbers next to the teams. I don't understand what that means. But we have Oregon at Washington. And folks, if this is not the game of the week, I don't know what is. These two teams can score a ton of points. They have moderately decent defenses. This is actually going to be a legitimately good game. And it sucks that one of them has to lose. Also, please enjoy next year when this is a Big Ten conference game. I don't make the rules. I just wanted to throw that out there. So we need to enjoy the last dash of Pac-12 spice to this game, okay? You should absolutely watch this game. There's a couple of other games on in this slot. The CBS game is Texas A&M at Tennessee. Shrug. Jimbo doesn't have his papers anymore. Get out of here. Give me Oregon at Washington. Put that directly into my eyes, veins, and toes. We'll just say toes. That game's going to be a true delight. There will be plenty of points scored. Everybody's going to have a good time, but somebody's going to be real sad at the end of this game. Give me the Ducks to win. I think the Ducks are a more complete team right now. You know what you shouldn't watch at 3:30? Florida at South Carolina. That's on the SEC network, and that's where it should stay. Also at 3:30, just LOL, BYU at TCU. BYU's 4-1. No one knows why. TCU is 3-3, and they have potentially 3 of the worst losses of the year, too. They lost to open the season against Colorado. They lost to West Virginia, I can't tell if West Virginia is good or not. I can't. The brawl, I think, broke my brain a little bit. But I can't tell if West Virginia is good, and then they lost last week to Iowa State. TCU is not the TCU it was last year. I think they cashed in all of their win points on last year's team to go to the national title. This year, none of those things are happening. There's no rushing out on the field to kick a magical field goal to win a game this year. Not happening. Give me BYU to win that game and get BYU the first new member win over a current or legacy, quote unquote, Big 12 member. Give me BYU to win that one. We are scrolling down to see, special interest game for me. Again, I am interested in Iowa football because I have unconventional desires. And a lot of it just stems back to what silly shots of Brian Ferentz they're going to get on the sidelines and how far off he's going to be. Because as it stands right now, the Brian Ferentz charity drive is currently at, I believe yesterday, I was looking at this because I found it to be truly hilarious, that the Iowa offense is currently averaging, I believe, 21.8 points per game right now. And they need to score 28.2 points per game the rest of the way for Brian to hit his 25-point average. And then I watched the Steelers play the Ravens, and I realized that the Steelers are averaging 14 points per game, which means that a Brian Ferentz offense, for all the jokes that we're making, is still a full touchdown better than your Pittsburgh Steelers. I just wanted to put that out there, just into the universe, just so we could all feel that and understand what that means. Yeah, that's on Fox. I don't know what the over-under on this game is. It's not low enough. Anyways, moving on. We're going to go to 7 p.m. on the Pac-12 network. Again, find yourself a VPN, Pac-12 International YouTube channel. You too can watch the Pac-12 network. We have Arizona going to Washington State. I meant to go to bed early. I tried to go to bed early because I had to get up and do a long drive the next day. And I was like, no, I'm going to be good. I'm going to go to bed early. I'm going to be an adult. And then Arizona and USC had to mess around and do something stupid, like go to overtime and not understand how to snap a ball on a field goal to win the game. And Jed Fish has no idea what the college overtime rules are. He still has NFL brain. Should have gone for 2 in the first overtime to win the game because he had the second score. And he didn't. And then had to go to a second overtime and let Caleb Williams continue to touch the football, and that's usually turning into points. So, Jed Fish, you're the reason they lost that game. Just saying that, just putting that on you. You should watch this game too, because Washington State is a blast to watch, and Arizona is going to score whenever they can. They lost Jaden Delore to an injury. Jaden Delore did not play last week. The backup came in and played his ass off, and he should get all of the credit in the world. This game should be fun. That's at 7 p.m. on the Pac-12 network. On the CW, we can see either a really good Louisville team stumble and lose to Pitt, LOL. I will have a great chuckle if that happens. Or you're going to have to talk to your kids about an undefeated Louisville team. And I don't know how to really say that. I don't know what I'm going to tell my kids. Yes, the bird has teeth. We don't know why the bird has teeth, but they're undefeated. And why are they undefeated? Because they're playing good football. It's as much a miracle to anybody else as it is to me, but here we are. So you should maybe watch that game. Quick programming note: I stream all of my games on my laptop. I don't watch them on a regular TV, cable box, whatever. You cannot stream CW network games. Like, you can't go to the CW network and just watch the game from there. There's some stupid thing in their contract, and they're not on any of the like ESPN or any of the other channels. So I have yet to see a game on the CW, and I think that's stupid. 7 p.m. ESPN2, we have Marshall at Georgia State. Georgia State finally loses a game. Marshall, again, finally loses a game. So these two can kind of settle down, and the undefeated season is now over, and now they can get to, playing Sun Belt football. Marshall almost got NC State, though. I just want to point that out. Marshall almost beat NC State in Raleigh. That would have been very fun for me personally to be able to lord that over friends of mine in North Carolina. Go Pack. But this should be a very, very good game. Marshall's defense, when it doesn't give up a big play, is pretty good. They have given up a lot of big plays, though, and that's where the problem comes in. I think Marshall goes down to Georgia because he had a soul to steal. I was trying to make a devil goes down to Georgia joke, and that's not how the herd works, the thundering. We'll workshop it. Marshall's going to win that football game. Also at 7 p.m. on CBS-SM, the network of champions. Powder River, go Pokes. The Wyoming Cowboys are going to Air Force. They coming off of beating Fresno State at home. They have to go to Fort Collins to go play Air Force. And Air Force is capital G, capital O, capital D, good. Like Service Academy in a New Year's Six game, good. They are mashing humans. And this should be a fantastic game. There's going to be other games on your TV around the same time. That Marshall game is going to be on then. The Arizona-Washington State game is going to be on then. There's some game involving an N and a D and a U and an S and a C. Maybe you watch that game. That'll be on a NBC. I don't know what they broadcast. Was that the channel with Friends? Might have been. Anyways, CBS-SM, the network of champions, is where you should be putting your eyeballs because Wyoming at Air Force is going to be a banger of a game. I'm going to say that Wyoming kind of has a letdown after beating Fresno last week, and Air Force goes and ruins some dreams, setting up Fresno beating Air Force later on this season, and we have a lovely triangle tiebreaker scenario for the Mountain West title game. I'm very excited for this. 7:30 ABC, Miami at UNC. Miami, you should have knelt the ball. You should have knelt the ball. You didn't kneel the ball. I don't understand why you didn't kneel the ball. Your coach was being a dummy. And you know what? The heck with it. You guys are stupid. And you should have lost. You should have won that game, and yet you lost it. And, well, here we are. Drake May is going to go bananas, and UNC is going to make Miami look real silly. That's all I'm going to say about that game. I almost misread this. At 8 p.m. on Fox, we have UCLA at Oregon State. UCLA is good. They handled Washington State. Like, they handled the heck out of them. They ran all over Washington State, and now they get to go to Corvallis. Good luck with that, because DJU is playing out of his mind right now. And there's probably some coach in South Carolina who's realizing what he had and what he lost. And again, I am all here for quarterbacks going west and living their best life, and that is what's happening here. UCLA is getting better. They have a good defense, a truly good, will hold you down defense. They just couldn't score any points against Utah, but they held Utah to 14 points. They just couldn't do anything on their own. Dante Moore is going to get better as he grows. Go ahead and give me the Beavs, though, and they continue their Cinderella Pac-2 story. Our night slate is on FS1. We have Boise at Colorado State. Everything has fallen apart. Boise is not Boise anymore. They're 3-3. They're 2-0 in the Mountain West, but they're 3-3. They had to come back last week to get a win. They were down for a good bit there. There were boos in Boise. That has not happened in a very long time. The team was getting booed early in the game last week, and it was not great. Colorado State, their 2 wins. One is against Middle Tennessee, and their other win, I believe, was an FCS win, if I have that off the top of my head. They beat, Utah Tech. Otherwise, they have gotten absolutely destroyed. So I expect Boise to come out and go nuts on them. they looked really, really good against Colorado, and that's really just they got up for a rivalry game. Other than that, they have not looked good all year. So go ahead and give me Boise to go down to Fort Collins and get themselves a win. And finally, we have to close it out with a Hawaii test. Going out to the island is San Diego State. Why Brady Hoke is still coaching this team, I don't know. Why they continue to pay this man, I don't know. And they need to find somebody who can score a ton of points because it's San Diego and they're fun, but this game will be boring as heck. And if this is like a bonus, this is an extra credit Hawaii test, because if you can get through a San Diego State Hawaii game, you're a real one. That's been this week's Group of Five After Dark report. It's a long one, but it's a good one. And I will send it back to Carla and Crappy. Thanks.
Thank you, AJ, once again. There's a whole bunch of games there that we're going to be looking forward to. Our slate, Carla, begins not with a noon window, although my Buckeyes will be playing on Peacock. That reminds me, I had to get Peacock on my phone. At noon at Purdue, and that's something I may bring up here in a little bit. We start at 3:30 on ABC. Number 8 Oregon at number 7 Washington. The Huskies are favored by 3 points. The AJ Fun Index is a genuinely fun 67. This is one of the games of the year so far, and it should be entertaining as hell. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think this is going to definitely kind of start sorting out the pecking order in the Pac-12 for sure. Because like we said last week, when we were trying to come up with our top 5, we both had Oregon and Washington and had a hard time deciding between them. Well, okay, let's put them head to head and see what happens. And I'm going to go ahead and say that, like, I really, really, really want to pick the Huskies here because they're playing at home. Michael Penix is 1 yard away from 2,000 yards on the season in week 7, which is just absurd. He's putting together video game numbers, right? Like he's putting together what potentially could be one heck of a Heisman campaign. Yep. He's the leading passer in the nation, and it's not even close. Like he's averaging 60 more yards per game than Shedeur Sanders, who's sitting in second in passing yards. So like, we've been seeing, like, if you've been watching Game Day the last couple of weeks, like we've been seeing Bo signs on Game Day the last several weeks. We should be seeing Penix signs.
We should. Like
the Bo for Heisman campaign is good, and that's not knocking Bo Nix at all. But Penix is having himself a year, and people need to be paying attention to this, and that's why they're playing at home. Like, I really want to pick Washington here, but and this is a big but. No offense, Duck. Oregon boasts the 5th best scoring defense in the nation.
Yes.
Tied with Utah. Also tied with a defense you seem to be boasting a whole lot about lately, and that is your Ohio Bobcats.
Yes.
They are sitting, so they're all tied. It's a 3-way tie for 5th place, for the 5th best scoring defense in the nation. They are sitting behind some teams that we happen to know a little bit about: Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State.
Oh, hey, look at that.
When we think Oregon, we don't think defense.
Yeah.
We think Bo Nix. We think offense. But this was an Oregon defense that flattened Colorado a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
I also think that that's why these two extremely prolific offenses, the fun index for this game is fun, but reasonable at 67. The Ducks defense matters here. And it's because of that, and the fact that Bo Nix and the Ducks offense can go toe to toe with the Huskies and Penix offense. I'm going to take Oregon on the road. And this may come back to bite me next week. I might come back and say, you know what? I was wrong. But I'm a Big Ten girl. Defense wins championships. I said I was going to ride the Utah defense until they told me not to. That Oregon defense is legit. I think they're the difference in this game. Ducks win on the road. Okay.
I will point out that both Tech and Middle have scored again. The score is now 31-16, just at the start of the 4th quarter. In case you're not paying attention.
Middle.
Go Middle. Yeah. The thing that everyone will notice about this game is the offense, and for good reason, especially in the case of the Huskies. We are familiar with Michael Penix Jr. From his time tormenting our respective Big Ten teams when he played at Indiana. He has found a home in Washington, and found an offense that just allows him to rack up unbelievable, as you said, video game numbers. But the defense wins stuff cliche it exists for a reason, and that's where Oregon is going to have an advantage here. Bo Nix and the Ducks offense doesn't quite put up the same numbers that the Huskies offense does, but it's close enough to be more than respectable. They run the ball, which is an advantageous thing, especially if you want to keep Mr. Video Game off the field, because he can't score when he's standing on the sidelines. And so the defense, I think, is going to make the difference. This, as I said, this game is going to be entertaining as hell. Well, watch it if you can. And I think those two, the running game and defense, is going to give the Ducks the win on the road. Next up at 3:30 on CBS, Texas A&M at number 19 Tennessee. The Vols are favored by 3.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is at 55.5. I mean, we made Texas A&M and Alabama one of our games to pick a week ago, and we split on it. And the Aggies gave Alabama everything they could.
Yeah.
How is that going to carry over to this weekend in Knoxville?
To be honest, I was just reading what I had written here for this game, and I'm like, I never picked a winner in this game, because I think that's the kind of game this is going to be. Yeah. Right. I really thought I picked the Aggies last week. I really thought the Aggies had the potential of beating Bama, and they led at the half. And Bama made a bunch of mistakes too, which is a very common theme from that team this season. Lots of penalties, 2 turnovers from a Bama team. But Bama did its Bama thing and found a way to win the game. Right, that's what we've come to know out of Alabama. And so now here comes this Aggie team into Neyland to face a Vols squad that had last weekend off. Which is always dangerous, and playing at home. Neyland's a different animal, right? But Tennessee's had a bunch of different personas this year. We see the team that handled South Carolina comfortably a couple weeks ago, or the one that got absolutely leveled in the swamp. Because those are really the only 2 tests that the Vols have had all season. The rest of their schedule so far has been cupcakes. Tennessee is favored in this game, but here's something to watch. The Aggies defense is very, very good against the run. And the Vols offense is almost perfectly balanced. So Joe Milton has flashed moments of brilliance this season as the Tennessee quarterback, but he's also made his share of mistakes.
Yes.
If Texas A&M can make Tennessee one-dimensional and have to rely on Milton's arm to win the game, that's the recipe for a Texas A&M win here. Is if you can shut down that Vols run game and force Milton, put him in that pressure situation, which we've seen over the past 2 seasons that he doesn't always handle those pressure situations really, really well or consistently. Maybe that's a better way to say it. Sometimes he handles them well and sometimes he doesn't. You force him into having to control that game. Texas A&M can win this game. Who am I going to pick? I want to pick Texas A&M in this game because I think that's a key. And I don't think we've seen enough out of Tennessee. And like we said, Texas A&M had Bama on the ropes until Bama just did its thing. So I'm going to say this is a close game. This is a really close game. And somehow Aggies find a way to win on the road. I don't feel good about that though. Okay. But I'll say Aggies.
Joe Milton's putting up big numbers, but he is still the guy he was at Michigan. Very capable, but also can be erratic. And if Texas A&M is able to slow down, whatever rushing game Tennessee has, and make Milton be the guy, I would agree that Texas A&M is in a good position to win this on the road. I'm going to make the opposite assumption. I'm going to say that the Vols emphasize the running game again to kind of slow down the pace of the game, take the pressure off of Milton. That's going to be the big thing for that, and and the Vols are going to win this at home. Next game, we take you to the evening, 7:30 on the Notre Dame Broadcasting Company. It is number 10 USC at number 21 Notre Dame. ND is favored by a measly 2.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is 63. Carla, what do you think?
Oh, hey. Yeah. Oh, hey, back to my I was wrong era, right? About Notre Dame. I thought Louisville was going to give them a game. I didn't think that Louisville was actually going to win the game. Feeling some fatigue due to that brutal stretch of games the Irish have played over the past month, but the Cards defense just like totally shut down the Notre Dame ground game. And then forced Sam Hartman to 3 interceptions, and that's the game right there. Irish fans, here's the good news. You're not going to have to worry about a stout defensive effort coming from USC.
No.
This is a Trojans team, as you mentioned last week, still suffering from the Lincoln Riley "we have no defense" disease. And that lack of defense almost bit them last week at home against a fine but not spectacularly good Arizona team. It's due to that lack of defense that Notre Dame is favored in this game despite having 2 losses. I dug into this because I was just curious, and I had some time while I was on campus today. USC hasn't faced a defense in the top 40 in the nation all season long. 3 teams that they've played have defenses ranked lower than 120. That's Stanford at 123, Colorado at 130, and Nevada at 133, which is dead last in the nation.
Oh boy.
The other teams that they have faced are, I wrote these down on Post-it, sorry. Arizona was ranked number 45, Arizona State 41. Notre Dame has the 12th best defense in the country.
Yes.
The Irish rebound and get this win at home.
I mentioned the Notre Dame swoon, and I mentioned that somewhat facetiously because, for the second year in a row, Notre Dame is losing games after Ohio State beat them, which is annoying to me. At least this one was to a ranked team on the road rather than Marshall at home. But it's a Notre Dame schedule, so there's always an opportunity for redemption. There's always going to be another big game coming. So South Bend, welcome to South Bend, Southern Cal. Did you guys bring a defense? No? That's going to be a problem. A very good rushing game and a rebound performance by Sam Hartman will keep the Trojans offense off the field, and the Irish will win this game at home. Also at 7:30 on ABC, number 25 Miami at number 12 North Carolina. UNC is favored by 3.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is 57. Carla, what do you think?
So make no mistake, this Carolina team is legit.
Yeah.
It has convincing wins this year over Syracuse, Pitt, Minnesota, and rival South Carolina. They're averaging 500 yards per game on offense. Drake May is just putting up big numbers, but he's also made some mistakes. 8 touchdowns to 4 interceptions isn't the ratio that you want in week 7, right? You want that to be a little bit better. That all being said, here's something that I didn't think I would say this year, and that is that this Miami defense is legit good, especially against the run. The Canes have the number 2 rush defense in the entire country, which is better than Ohio's. But Miami enters this game after that inexplicable loss at home. And Tyler Van Dyke at quarterback has made his share of mistakes as well, with 4 picks on the season, 3 of which came last week. So I don't know. On paper, when you look at this, and I keep picking defenses, right? On paper, I should take Miami here. They've got the better defense. The defense should be the difference in this game. But as I was looking at everything today while I was getting my notes ready for this game, I'm going to go with my gut instead and pick the team that is playing at home on a hot streak. Carolina wins this game at home, and I don't really have a good reason for it. I just feel like they're the team that's well, I guess I do, because they're the team coming in with the momentum after blowing out Syracuse last weekend. Miami is coming in after a loss that should have been a win. I think that's just going to completely deflate them in this game being on the road. Carolina wins at home.
After a long evening in Chapel Hill, Mario Cristobal won't have a chance to tell quarterback Tyler Van Dyke to take a knee. unless it's to watch Drake May throw for another touchdown. The Tar Heels give Canes their second straight loss. And yeah, Mario, maybe you can figure out your coaching stuff. We finish up with the actual Pac-12 after dark. It may not be dark when they start the game on the West Coast, but it'll be dark here when we start watching.
Yeah.
8 p.m. on Fox. Number 18 UCLA at number 15 Oregon State. The Beavers are favored by 4. The AJ Fun Index is a Big Ten-ish 54.5 points. Carla, what do you think?
So 2 quick things before I dive into what I wrote about this game. First thing is, this might be the first time in the history of the Carla and Crappy Show that all of the games that we talked about are on major broadcast networks. We don't have a single.
I think you're right. I think
we don't have a single ESPN game on this slate. They're all ABC, CBS, and Fox. It's kind of crazy. The other thing is just as good as last week's noon window was, the primetime window this week has that same potential, because this is the third game that we've talked about that is in that primetime window. Get your screens ready, caffeinate. There's no noon games that we're talking about. First game that we need to start paying attention to is at 3:30. It's gonna be a long day. So
take a nap. Yeah.
Take a nap, plan your caffeine strategies accordingly. Listen to AJ, be ready to stay up late. Here we go. Okay. So the game at hand, UCLA and Oregon State. Okay, UCLA, you did it. You beat Wazoo last weekend, and now you find yourself nationally ranked. Here's your prize. A trip to Corvallis at night.
Oh boy.
To face a Beavers squad that went into shootout mode against Cal last weekend. I feel like I just said this because maybe I just did. When you look at this game on paper, it's pretty easy to pick the Bruins on the road. Their defense is solid and legit good against the run. They're the number 3 rush defense in the nation. Again, better than Ohio. Their offense can go toe to toe with DJU and the Beavs. This should be a UCLA win, which is why I'm taking Oregon State. Okay. If there's anything predictable about the Pac-12, it's that it's unpredictable.
Yes.
The Pac-12 eats its young. We talk about this every year. UCLA beat Wazoo last weekend. Wazoo beat Oregon State a couple of weeks ago. So it only makes sense that Oregon State beats UCLA because that's just what the Pac-12 does. Go Beavs.
There's a transitive properties thing in there someplace, and I'm not sure.
It's a beautiful circle. It's a beautiful circle.
It is. that is for sure. Chip Kelly and the Bruins have a chance to win, get a win over the second team in the Pac-2 in consecutive weeks. But I think he's going to find the Beavers to be a little less accommodating than Wazoo was a week ago. UCLA's they look tougher and tougher as the weeks pass. And you mentioned the defense giving up just 250 yards a game while running that Chip Kelly offense. The Beavers, however, can compete, especially at home. DJU is completing 60% of his passes. He's got 4 picks on the season, but in general, it seems like he's settled in Corvallis. The Beavers' leading rusher, Damian Martinez, is averaging 6.5 yards per carry. And I think the Beavers win this one at home. Boys and girls, you can hear the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and a variety of other podcasting hosts. You can watch us on YouTube or the show's Facebook page. And for the first time this season, you can read us on our Substack. If you like us, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. Be sure to come back next week when Carla may be grading us again. I don't know, but come back to see exactly how wrong we were. Carla, do you have any final thoughts?
Next week's fall break, so I'm done with grading at that point.
Woo!
So no,
okay.
Yeah, I get a couple of days off next week, so that's nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have a game that we didn't talk about that just kind of when I saw it on the schedule, I went, huh.
Okay.
And this is not normally a game that would be on my radar, but Mizzou at number 24 Kentucky. If you needed yet another game to pay attention to in the primetime window, this is on 7:30 Eastern on SEC
Oh God,
Network.
that's a prime game as well. Wow. Okay. Oof.
Yeah, it's all in the primetime window. Yeah. I am super intrigued by this game, as if we weren't going to be busy enough during that window, right? Kentucky got blasted by Georgia last week, but we know that the Cats are good. Yes. Mizzou gave LSU a really good game last week, almost pulling off that win at home. The Mizzou offense is putting up more yards than Kentucky, but the Cats are putting up just as many points. So both teams are good defensively against the run, not so much against the pass. I don't know. I think I like Kentucky at home. But this is a really good undercard game to, again, I know we have enough to watch in the primetime window, but like keep your eye on this one because this could be a really interesting game. That could help shake out some things in the SEC East. So yeah, pay attention to this game. But yeah, there's just all kinds of good stuff. Also, middle check, still up 15 in the fourth quarter, at least based on my feed.
That is correct, and they lost the defensive player to a targeting call. Does this sound familiar? I think it was a legit call. Yeah. But have the ball back, and we'll with second down and 3. We'll see if they can put together another drive here. There are I have different levels of football related anxiety. There are games that make me that legitimately make me anxious, and that's Penn State, this Michigan, is certainly Notre Dame. This, if we're talking about this season, but then there are teams that shouldn't make me anxious but do, and it's because I am acutely aware of the history. Here's a bit of trivia: every single Ohio State football coach in the 21st century has lost one game on the road at Purdue. Every single one. John Cooper did in 2000. Tressel did twice. Luke Fickell did during his year. And in Urban, I was at this game a few years ago. Urban absolutely got waxed by the Boilermakers in a night game in West Lafayette that I had the pleasure of watching in person. Guess where Ohio State's playing on Saturday? Right at Purdue.
No clue. Yeah.
This should be a relatively easy win. Purdue does not have the offense that say Maryland does. Purdue does not have the defense. Their quarterback throws picks. And I think Ohio State's defense is solid enough that it's in a position to take advantage of turnovers. Kyle McCord, I want to see a faster start. He did not really get going until the second half against Maryland, which was a big reason why that game was as tight as it was for as long as it was. Big thing, number one thing, run the football. Ohio State's got to run the football. And so far, the Buckeyes haven't done that. They're averaging 131 yards of rushing per game, and that is pathetic. It doesn't help. McCord getting a faster start will help with that a lot. It'll take some of the pressure off the offensive line. It puts the pressure on the defenses. But still, going into Purdue in a situation where I'm flabbergasted that Ohio State actually moved up in the AP poll to number 3 after last weekend's performance. But I'm looking for an Ohio State win. I am nervous with good reason about going to West Lafayette. Fortunately, I will be in Ithaca and just checking scores on my phone. So I hopefully that won't turn into a situation that I need to be concerned about. Carla,
yes.
Middle still driving. 7 minutes left. 7.5 minutes left. 3rd and 8.
Burn that clock. Let's go.
Absolutely. Run that clock down. One more score here, and I think we can count this game as being put away. Oh, that's a face mask. That's got to be a face mask. I'm not seeing a flag. There was a sack, and it really looked like a face mask, but perhaps not. Carla, thank you once again for everything that you do. No, it was a shoulder pad.
Dang. Yes,
yeah.
Thank you as always.
Guys, thank you for watching, for reading, for listening, for all of the things that you do for the show. We really appreciate it. And once again, come back next week because we will do all of this all over again. Cheers, everybody.
It's the show. It's the show of the year next week. We got a little game to talk about. Jesus.
Oh God. Okay. Football anxiety. Yes. But that's a legitimate football anxiety that we will get to next week. Yeah, guys, you don't want to miss this one. You don't want to miss the game. You don't want to miss the show. It's going to be fun stuff all the way around. Cheers, everybody. We'll see you then.
Cheers. We are friends for another week. And then all bets are off.
And then all bets are off. Good fun.